Okay, so here we are. This is going to be the last part of the series, I believe. I'm going to test a couple more things, but I just want to give some quick feedback here. This has been a very interesting game. Let's see here. I just want to real quick see what I want to see real quick what happens if I don't choose to be alone. Alright, so Emily's already my wife. This is like the honorable thing. You choose fidelity? Perhaps you're not a miserable tumor after all. Enjoy your date. So, a picnic by the sea. It's been a long time since we relaxed like this, Charles. She's right. You can't remember the last time you weren't busy killing monsters or crushing political opponents. Emily deserves better. From now on, you're going to pay attention to her needs and stop making googly eyes at Susan when she's around. I'm sorry, Emily. Charles, why do you think this is all happening? Guilt, regret, not wanting to be kicked out of the house by Robodad. If only I could say these things out loud. The clergy of my order have the power to give new, healthy bodies to the dead. Is it really any different from what Geddes is doing with the zombies? Yes, have you smelled the things that Geddes is raising up? I mean, come on, girl, don't be like that. If God watched over us, why has he let human race drift towards the edge of extinction? Why hasn't he used his huge magical hands to reshape this world? Emily, perhaps God speaks through me. You know, the guy with no soul. I'm sure you know all about God. All right. I'm getting cramped in the sea, or it's running my hair. Thanks to the date, Charles, and in spite of all the murders you've committed in the name of justice, you still know how to treat a lady right? Emily learned God heal. Oh. Oh, okay, so depending on who. Alright. So it gives you an extra power. Cool. That's all it is. So really it's how does it play out for let's see, what does it do here? Oh wow. It's expensive though. Alright. Excuse me. So I'm not gonna do that again. We've seen the ending. I want to actually go back real quick to this guy here. So it's Farda something L. Farda. Oh, Farda Bowel. Oh, that's just. I'm sure I'm missing a letter somewhere. I don't know. I couldn't find this one. Maybe it's around somewhere. Maybe I'm just have to fill in the blank. But yeah, that's very okay. That I think the message here was a Farda Bowel. I'm guessing Farda Howell, maybe? I don't know. I wish I knew where the other letter was. But here's the thing. This is pretty indicative of what a typical Walther style game does. They all are interlinked. It's kind of like any book you've read that from similar author. I think the guy who wrote Thank You for Smoking, and then the one who wrote Cloud Atlas. My understanding is they all have their books. They all fit into the same universe. They're not all like sequels and things, but they just when you read them all, they're supposed to all interconnect. They use interlock the same characters. So there's just a lot to get out of it, and they say like you want to read the books in order because again, because each character in each book, they progress a different part of the story. It's not the core story. It's just like the world building story. And I bring that up because Paul Harrington's games are very much like that, and they all link to each other. It's like Walther's is the original. I believe the most recent one is Ghost Towns. Now I don't know how I'm not sure how the new one, the big battle kaiju fight thing, kaiju big battle fight of fantasy. That's the one he's working on now. I don't know if that's going to link in anything or if that's just going to be its own piece. But because I know he said a long time ago, Ghost Towns would be probably the last of, the one that just sort of puts it all together. I dare say this one here has got a lot of the same themes as far as just how the world actually works, and just it puts your decisions in perspective. Is I think with the message it brings on, and what I like about this game, and I gotta say, I thought Ghost Towns. I think I appreciated it a little bit more. I think because I didn't play this game first. If I played this first, I might appreciate this one more. I think both games, they really do send a message that gets you to think. I'm actually going to go to a different screen in case I get stuck with a screenshot I've already used. We'll hold on in here by the octopus. So yeah, what I was saying is that I think the difference between this and Ghost Towns, Ghost Towns I think was definitely more of a puzzle game. This is more of a fighting game. I think they both kind of want to go for the same idea, which is to distill conventions and make a point about life, the process, and philosophy and all that. And I think all of his games somehow bring philosophy into play. I know the original Walters. Granted, it was written in a different time, under I think different mindsets and different understandings. And certainly, as we get older, we learn more, and we, certainly think longer about what we stand for and what we believe. And this is definitely, I think, the most political game of all the set, because it does a major call out on the media. And I know this whole thing's a metaphor for what the media does to society. For that, it's interesting, I think, and how it plays into politics, and there's just a lot of other little things. I think if I were to criticize anything about this, and this is a hard criticism because it's very well thought out, but I've been reading a lot about generating story and editing and how to really develop a strong theme, and I think this does the one thing that you can potentially violate story convention, and it's not that it does anything badly. What it does is it does too much. It has so many themes that it wants to address in such a short time that it almost feels saturated. Like it's not sure exactly what point it's going to prove, because it does filter in a lot of things like life after death, and the quality of marriage, and family relationships, and it's just a lot of things that, it's brilliant, but I wonder if it's too much, too much for one game. And a part of me would rather just see this be all about the media, and how media is, it spreads lies and corrupts thought, and makes the hero into the villain, essentially, or how it glorifies the villain, because there's a bit of a Breaking Bad vibe. Now, I'm sure there are different ways to end the game. Obviously, I'm not going to play all of them, because I think, for the sake of the video, if anybody has stumbled across this, and I know the creator is probably going to be the first to watch this, because I'm sending him the email when I'm done here and saying, hey, dude, your videos are up, go watch them. Feedback galore. But just for anybody who hasn't played this, you should. If you haven't watched the whole thing. And I'm purposely not going to play out every single possible path on this game, even though I've probably played about 95% of it, because I do think that it's worth playing and worth supporting. And even if you've stumbled upon this video and you probably don't feel like you need to play the game if you've seen the whole thing, but it's the author's time spent. It's worth supporting, and it's not very expensive. I think it's like $3 normally, and I know it might be on sale right now, because I know it's selling for like 50 cents on the Steam store. I think it's still this week, probably near the end, but it's worth checking out if you haven't watched the whole thing, if you're just cutting to the end, or if you want to just see what the other endings are. Because the thing with these games is, he's probably going to do another update at some point. He might. I don't know if he will, but because this is 2.0 and not the original. And the original, I imagine probably didn't have this clown area. I'm not actually sure what was added to 2.0. I do know that full screen in Windows was set. I'm not in full screen because it's easier for me to record in Windows mode. Anyway, I'm going off track as I sometimes do. I just for the actual feedback again, I just feel that the traditional weirdness versus really deep thinking. I mean, it's a good mix. I mean, I'm talking about this while I'm looking at trees with giant noses winking at me. I mean, that I think explains a lot about what his games are like and what and there's a beaver with a clown nose. Just stew on that for a minute. This is why I enjoy playing his games, because there is that kind of that absurdity involved that it just makes the game more pleasant. It doesn't take itself as seriously as I think the story wants you to take it. I think there's a class of writers, storytellers, who would say that this does everything you shouldn't do, because here it is wanting to tell a serious story and yet it's absurd. So which side do you take? Can you take it seriously at all? These are the kinds of things that I think when you play, you're not sure what it wants you to do, what it wants you to think. Which maybe that's free, and maybe it gives you a chance to just free think it, the whole thing. I just feel like there's no real way to truly value this game or to evaluate it, because there's so many ways to play it and so many things to get out of it. I don't know. This is why I like these games, because they do make you wonder, like, do you root for the hero? Is there a hero to root for? And then you're like, you spend the whole time trying to crack a message, and when you get to the end of it, you find out it's basically wants you to fart something, fart a foul, dowel. I don't know. I couldn't find the last letter. And there's so many words that rhyme with owl. Maybe he just wants you to fart an owl. I don't know. But I mean, that's, again, this is what you get into when you find games from this author. They're all worth playing. I mean, there's so many of them. There's, like I said, Walters is the original. You've had a Village People game. You've had the Ghost Towns one I was talking about. It's one of the, I think the last one of the series so far. So I know that one came out after this one. And I know, I don't have a whole lot of negative. I don't have a whole lot of positive. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think it really changes your thoughts about life. I think it's just within the context of this world, it really does make you think. And I'm just amazed that it can get you to think as much as it does in such short time. I've only put 3 hours into this, or four total, and it's pretty good for a distilled RPG that came out before Undertale, for those who are comparing the two. I know this came out probably a year before, but it didn't get to Steam until a couple years after its first release, so there's that. But no, good game overall. I like that the shark was your random battles, and I know that most of these games, they've done away with the random battles since the Walters era. I like that your final fight can actually be a choice fight. I do wonder what would happen if I had thrown Geddes off the building. I may test that out on my own time. I'm not going to do it on the video because, again, I want people to consider the fact that, if you really want to know these endings, you should just buy the game. Because I can't do it all for you. You're going to have to spend money from time to time. Stop being cheapskates. And on that note, thank you for watching, and thank you for playing if you play. And thank you to Paul Harrington for making the game. Because these are retreats for me, even if they make me sad.